Yo, what's up guys, it's Paz. Today we're going to be going over all of the Ord updates that have recently come out, specifically reinscribing, postage, batch inscriptions, and more. And while a lot of tooling has come out that has helped people do all of this without the use of Ord, I still think it's important to educate others on how to use a base program, just because the better you understand Ord, the better you could understand all the stuff that's going on in this community. And just to let you guys know, this is recorded in post, so the audio and the way I look is going to be different. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy the video. And the first thing that I want to go over is the fact that you can now look up inscriptions based on their inscription number on Ordinals.com, which is pretty cool. Another thing that was added like 2 months back was setting custom postage. I think inscribing services like Unisat already had, but it's cool that you can now just do it in Ord Wallet. And a few weeks later, Reinscribing was introduced, which allows you to pretty much reinscribe on a stat that already has an inscription. So a cool example of this is a project created by my friend Donnie, but pretty much he sketched out items or just concepts that we're all familiar with. For example, here is a sketch of a rat. And what he did is he asked the artist to draw out their own interpretation of what a rat looks like in their head. And from that, he's reinscribed about 53 times now, several different iterations of rats, all created by different people. Finally, we move on to our latest update, which is 0.10.0, which was released 4 days ago. And this is kind of like the big one. So we have batch inscriptions, we have Teleburn, and we also have metadata right here. So we're gonna go over all of that. There's also a bunch of other cool stuff, like the handbook has been translated several times now, which is very cool to see. We also have fonts being able to be inscribed now. We have Markdown, which I'm not too familiar with, but I will be soon. And the first thing that we're going to be going over right now is Teleburn real quick. And when it comes to Ordinals, Teleburning, it's just inscribing something that is like on a different chain onto Ordinals. For our case, I'm just going to use ETH number 7688, something that I just randomly have in my wallet. All you would do is just save the image or save the file that you want to Teleburn. And the first step is just inscribing it. And while we work on Teleburning this asset, we'll also be simultaneously reinscribing on this inscription, which is just a BRC20 mint. So what I'm going to do now is just paste in the exact command that we're looking for, and all of the commands are going to be down in the description, so you can just copy and paste. I really suggest having like a little notepad file to do this, just because it could get kind of complicated. And if you haven't seen my original video on how to like set up your Ord wallet or how to like set up a Bitcoin node, check out my first video on my channel. It goes through all of it. But what we're going to do is do an inscribe command first. Next up, we're going to add the -- reinscribe parameter. This is pretty much just telling the system that what we're doing right now is reinscribing on an inscription. After that, you add the satpoint parameter. This is pretty much going to locate the exact sat that we're going to inscribe on, so the exact sat that this inscription is on. Then I'm going to follow it up by the fee rate, and I think the -- file parameter was just recently added to this new version. Correct me if I'm wrong, but whenever you're inscribing a file now, you must add this -- file parameter and then fill it in with the file path. Because we're also covering postage, we are going to add the parameter -- postage space, and I think for this one we could just do 600 sats. And you have to make sure that you actually add sats in the code, or else it will not recognize the numbers at all. And to make it easy, I'm just going to fill in the file path. But the next thing that we're going to look into is the actual sat output for this inscription. So all you want to do is go onto the page for the inscription that you are reinscribing on. Head down here to the location, and let's quickly go over what these 3 value means. As you can see, they're all broken up by a colon. So first, I'm going to highlight this first value. And what this pretty much is a transaction where you actually inscribed the inscription. Yo, what's up guys? It's Future Paz here. What I'm saying is not necessarily incorrect, but one thing to note is that your location transaction could be different from your inscribing transaction if you've moved the inscription, or if you reinscribed, or anything that would change the position of where the inscription is at. I just wanted to quickly add that in to give the right info. But yeah, don't mind this. This is just a reinscription that I did for fun. If you go down here, you see that there's one output. And within this output, we have our inscription, obviously. But what it's saying right there is that this inscription is within this transaction, and it is in with this first output. As you could see, when we went to the transaction, there's only one output. So it has a value of 0 because the first one is always 0. And then finally, it is the sat that it's on. So it's on the 0 sat. the first SAT. So I could go back in here and paste in the transaction. So like I said, this is the transaction that it's in, this is the first output, and this is the first SAT. And that is how it's able to recognize which SAT we're asking for. One thing to note is that you will need the inscription that you are reinscribing on. So once we look at everything, we check it out, everything looks fine. I'm just gonna hit enter, and after Ord updates, it should just reinscribe. And yeah, now we just get our reveal. After this inscribes, I'll show how to teleburn, and it's a fairly simple process. And our inscription did go through, so if we go back to the original inscription page and you just refresh it, the location of the SAT has now changed since we used it in a transaction. If we look it up, we have our re-inscription. And another easy way to check is to just go on ord.io and go to the original inscription page, and if you scroll down, you should see a curse inscription section. And as you can see right here, we have the image that I inscribed. Now, when it comes to teleburning, all you need to do is go onto the inscription page of the asset that you're trying to teleburn. Scroll down. As you can see, there is an Ethereum teleburn address. This is specifically for Ethereum, and you would copy this, go over to the page where you have the NFT or whatever it is that you're teleburning, and you would send it out, and you'd paste in the address. You double check, make sure it's right, transfer it, approve the transaction, and the transfer is complete. And I have now officially teleburned this NFT, which is pretty cool. Now, another way you could figure out the teleburn address is to just do ord teleburn and then copy the inscription ID, and it'll show the exact address that you need to send it to, which is the same as down here. Now, let's say you wanted to create a parent-child inscription. And for those of you who don't know, a parent-child inscription pretty much creates a collection on-chain. It creates provenance, right? So it allows you to connect several inscriptions together. Thankfully, in order to do this, it's pretty simple. For this example, I'm going to use this cool photo of Choso. I don't know if anyone in here is a JJK fan, but I'm then going to go on to my Ord client. I already have the command written out. The first thing I'm going to do is fill in the file path with the inscription, or with the file that I'm going to inscribe, and then I'm going to go on to the parent page. For this case, we're just going to use the inscription that we just made. All we need to do is copy in the ID for this inscription. One thing to take note is that you do need the original parent inscription in order to actually create this parent-child relationship. But after you fill in, what you need to do, hit enter, and it should start inscribing soon. All right, so as you can see here, we have the parent inscription, which is the inscription that we just made right here. And then we have the reveal. And a cool little note here is when you do the parent-child inscription, it does send out the little parent right here, which is very cool to see. All right, so our inscription just went through. So if I refresh the parent inscription page, scroll down, as you can see, we have a child inscription. It's pretty easy, to be honest. So now that we've gone through that, I think the next thing that we could go over is metadata. I'm going to be using a JSON file. I think the alternative is using a CBOR file, which I'm not too familiar with, and I think it's more complex. I think JSON, it's just simple. I'll have the exact, text that you need. For this example, I'm just gonna have a title, an artist, and a description. And of course, you could have more metadata tags besides these three. All you need to do is add a comma at the last one that you had, hit enter to create a new line, enter a quotation, and then give a name for the tag, end the quotation, add a colon, and then a space, and then another quotation mark, and then whatever your description or property is, I guess, of the tag, and end it off with a quotation mark. And once you're ready to actually inscribe, all you need to do is do the regular inscribe command and follow it up with the metadata parameter, and specifically the JSON-metadata parameter. There's also another one, which is just, I believe, metadata. That's if you have a CBOR file. You just need to simply copy the file path. Very similar stuff. So we paste that in, and then we paste in the file path for the inscription that we want to inscribe. And yeah, now we have the reveal transaction. All right. Our transaction went through, and if we go and paste in the reveal, you can see we have our inscription, and the metadata is all right here. So you can see I have the title, I have the artist tag, and the description. All very, very cool. All right, and the last part of the video is going to be going over batch inscribing, and we'll be using the previous inscription that we just made for this example. Batch inscribing pretty much just allows you to do multiple inscriptions within one transaction. Why is this very good? Well, it makes it really easy to do parent-child inscriptions with metadata all in one transaction. So you don't have to, do it over and over again. And the command to do this is laid out right here. It's a normal inscribe command with the batch parameter followed by the batch file, which I do have to replace just the path right now. And to create a .yaml or YML file, all you need to do is go into something like Notepad++, create a new file, and whenever you save it, there should be an option to save it as YAML. Well, depending, on the program to use, but Notepad++ does have that option. Now, to actually go over this code, I think it's easier to just go onto the Ordinals handbook and kind of go one by one. So first thing to take note is the mode, which pretty much just means whether or not the inscription is going to be in one address or is it going to be in separate addresses. Now, I could be wrong on this, so if anyone knows better, please do share. But I think shared output means that it's all in one address, but there's different UTXOs, whereas separate output, it's just all separate UTXOs, but also just separate addresses, so it's all the inscriptions are located in different areas, whereas shared output, it's all on one address. The next thing to take note is the parent inscription line. Pretty much we're just going to be pasting in the inscription that's going to be the parent, which is this one in our case. So could go in here and put that down. And then the next one is the actual inscriptions that we're doing. So as you see, there's a file parameter here. This would be the file path. Then it's followed up by the metadata, and then another subsection where we have all the tags. And then it just moves on to different file types, and you could have different, parameters. And this one specifically is meta protocol, and then this one is metadata. So a lot of different stuff you could do. In my case, I've already kind of laid it out. I'm going to be inscribing this piece. So as you can see, this one is the white variant, so I'll title it colors white. I added a separate meta tag, which is just color. Did it for every single file. If you're doing this yourself, just cross-reference this or just cross-reference the handbook. Also, quick note, make sure you remove any quotation marks that are in the file path, because Ord is not gonna recognize it and you'll just come out with errors. And also make sure that the parent ID is in the same line as the parent. But after you have this, all you need to do is head into your Ord wallet. Make sure everything is set up and that you have the exact fee rate figured out. Hit enter. And as you can see, we have multiple different IDs along with, different locations. If you remember when we were going through how to read the location, this is the transaction that the inscription was made in. This is the output, so it's in the second output. And this is the sat that it's on, so it's on the first sat. All right, and as you can see, we finally got our first confirmation. And when I refresh the parent page, we have the 5 children, which is so dope to see. And if we go into the children page, we also have the different meta tags for those ones as well. All right, guys, that pretty much concludes the video. Let me know if you guys have any questions down below in the comments, or if you guys have any suggestions on stuff that you want me to explore. See you guys.